What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 14 top 12 defense rankings. I've already posted all the other positional rankings: running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. This video is all about the defenses. If you guys enjoy the video, find it helpful, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. But let's dive right into tier one. And my number one defense this week is the Cleveland Browns going up against the Titans. This is the combination we're looking for of a top tier defense going up against a bottom tier offense. The Browns this season are sixth in fantasy points per game, so they've been a super solid option, obviously spearheaded by the best defensive player in the league in Myles Garrett. And then defenses going up against the Titans have feasted this season. They're averaging the second most points per game. Titans, as per usual, lowest implied point total, all the way down at 15 points. So I feel great about the Browns this week. Also in tier one, similar situation here. Great defense, rough offense. The Denver Broncos going up against the Raiders. Defenses going up against the Raiders are scoring the third most points per game. The Broncos this season are eighth in fantasy points per game. They are first in sacks by 8 total sacks. So in terms of their pass rush, blowing away a lot of other teams. And then the Raiders have the second lowest implied point total. This offense is rough. The O-line is, not playing at a high level. The run game's pretty much non-existent, even with a great running back in Ashton Genty. And then Geno has just been super unreliable this season. And then my final tier one defense, Seahawks going up against the Falcons. This Seahawks defense is first in points per game. Falcons offense, Penix out for the season. Got Kirk Cousins back there, pretty much a statue. We'll see on the status of Drake London, but if London can't play, you look at the Falcons supporting cast with Kirk Cousins back there against this defense, I don't think it's going to be pretty. Falcons have the fourth lowest implied point total this week. Now moving into tier two, I've got the Buccaneers going up against the Saints. Despite some key injuries early on in the season, this Bucs defense has actually been pretty solid for fantasy. They are 12th in points per game. Defenses going up against the Saints are scoring the fifth most points per game. Saints, third lowest implied point total. And then the Buccaneers, they force turnovers. They take the ball away. They are top 6 in takeaways this season. Tyler Shuck's been fine, but this is just not a Saints offense that scares me at all. A defense that has been really strong this season, the Los Angeles Rams going up against the Cardinals. The Rams are third in fantasy points per game, also third in takeaways, and then defenses going up against the Cardinals are top 6 in points per game. Cardinals, they've kind of been these garbage time warriors with Jacoby Brissett, but typically they're putting themselves in holes and, a decent amount of time that is from turnovers, just playing rough early on. So I think the Rams defense will be fine, even though they're coming off kind of a tough game against the Panthers. Things just really did not swing their way in that game. Multiple deep fourth down touchdowns they let up. I just don't think that carries over here into week 14. And then the last team I have here in tier two, this might be surprising. I've got the Titans going up against the Browns. First off, just teams playing against the Browns have a lot of success. This is not a good offense, rough O-line, rough weapons, rough quarterback play. Defense is going up against the Browns, fourth in fantasy points per game. They have the fifth lowest implied point total. And then this Titans defense hasn't been good for fantasy. They're 21st in points per game. But you also have to think a lot of that is due to their offense putting them in rough spots. I think both these teams are kind of going to be in similar spots this week. So I think the Titans are actually a very playable option going up against the Browns. I've got a couple of teams in tier three. The first one is going to be the Ravens going up against the Steelers. After a really rough defensive start to the season, the Ravens have really locked in. They've been very solid in their last 5 games. The Steelers offense does not scare me. They have the 7th lowest implied point total. Aaron Rodgers is clearly not at 100%. He looked rough in week 13. The weapons there are pretty much non-existent. I think the Ravens are a very strong play. And then my other tier 3 defense, really didn't think I'd be having them this high in any specific week, but I've got the Dolphins going up against the Jets. This Dolphins defense has kind of locked in as of late. They've allowed 17 or fewer points in each of their last 3 games, and it hasn't been all cake matchups. One of those was the Bills and that big upset, Commanders. Saints, I think, was this past week, so not a super tough matchup, but the defense has been solid. This Jets offense is not good. I mean, your top 2 pass catchers are Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie. You've got Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, so the Dolphins have been solid. I think they keep it rolling here against the Jets. Now, moving into my final tier, tier 4, I'll start it off with the Texans going up against the Chiefs. This is a great defense with a tough matchup. Texans defense, second in fantasy points per game. They are top 6 in sacks, turnovers, and defensive slash special teams touchdowns. But it's also like you got to be scared of this matchup against the Chiefs, right? You got Patrick Mahomes. I know the Chiefs' record isn't great, but when you actually look at like some of the advanced metrics, the team actually looks better than they did last season, offensively specifically here, which is what matters. You've got Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. The run game has been not great, but it's fine. So it's a good offense they're going up against, but I do think the Texans have been so good that they've, got to crack the top 12, which is why they're in my final tier. I've got the Eagles up next here going up against the Chargers. Now, the Chargers, somewhat shockingly, their implied point total is down at 18.75, and I can't quite tell if that's because they're expecting Herbert to miss. With what I've seen from the fantasy doctors out there, I think Justin Herbert's going to play, and I don't think he's going to be super limited. And I just can't imagine the Chargers being like sub 19 implied points with Justin Herbert out there, even if he's not healthy. Like just having Herbert on the field, I think they'd be better than that, especially with the Eagles just getting completely gashed last week by the Bears. So we'll see. Typically if a team was that low, the Eagles defense has been solid. I'd be higher on them. I just don't fully trust defense going up against the Chargers with Justin Herbert, even though the offensive line is pretty brutal. I've got the other side of that Texans matchup, the Chiefs obviously going up against the Texans. The Texans are implied a very low 19.5 points. The Chiefs defense has been fine for fantasy. Texans offense just not super scary. I think like a very reasonable back end defense, one play. And then the final team in these rankings, this is like a pretty rough defense going up against a brutal offense. Commanders going up against the Vikings. Defenses going up against the Vikings are scoring the most fantasy points per game. J.J. McCarthy had looked terrible as the starter. I think a lot of people thought it couldn't get any worse. We saw it actually get worse in Week 13 with Max Brosmer. I mean, just a brutal performance. He had a Will Levis-esque pick 6 early in that game, 4 total interceptions. It was awful. So I think McCarthy's better than him, but McCarthy has also not been good. The issue here for the Commanders is they're just not a good defense, right? They are bottom 4 in points per game this season, which is less than ideal. So you're certainly taking a risk, right? Like if there were a game where J.J. McCarthy could kind of look good, get right, it would be this matchup. But if McCarthy continues to play at the level he's played at this season, it's probably going to be a solid game here for the Commanders. So that is going to wrap it up for my top 12. If you enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Check out all the other rankings. Flex rankings will be coming out tomorrow. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.